Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Lion's Den isn't just a sex toy store. It's a full-on self-love destination. Whether you're shopping for your first vibrator, adding new tools to your pleasure practice, or curious about kink, Lion's Den makes the process approachable and fun. With knowledgeable staff, hundreds of trusted brands, and 50 plus years of experience, they have got what you need to feel empowered in your body. Use code SEXEDWITHDB at lionsden.com for 15% off your next purchase. Let's talk about a lube I absolutely love, Uberlube. It's silky, long-lasting, and makes sex better for everyone by reducing friction and increasing pleasure, whether solo or with a partner. It's body and condom-friendly, scent-free, and never sticky. Plus, it's recommended by doctors and designed with sensitive skin in mind. Want to try it? Use code SEXEDWITHDB for 10% off at uberlube.com and see why I keep coming back to it. Hello, Sex Ed with DB listeners. Do you want to learn even more about sex ed and sexual wellness? Want to see me speak at my first conference ever? Great news! I'll be talking all about the Magic Wand study at the Climax Conference in Ottawa, Canada on Saturday, November 8th. The Climax Conference is a mindful and comprehensive sexual wellness conference and online platform that entertains, educates, inspires, and empowers. Come see me talk all about the Magic Wand experiment, hang out with other very cool sex educators, and get a little wild at the House of Kinks after party. Get tickets at climaxconference.com and use code SPEAKERSPECIAL for $10 off. See you there. Hello, DB here, your favorite sex educator and pleasure expert. Let's go ahead and dive into DB's Pleasure Preview, where I give you a little taste of what we're diving into today, what the science has to say, and how it might just change the way that you think about sex. This week, we're talking about ethical non-monogamy, or ENM for short. ENM relationships have become such a persistent part of the zeitgeist in the last few years, but it doesn't seem like most people know as much as they think that they do. ENM is not cheating, and it's also not a sign that someone's relationship is on the way out. Non-monogamous listeners, I know that you know this, and hopefully this episode makes you feel understood and appreciated. You are safe here. We've got you. Whether you're non-monogamous, polyamorous, a swinger, monogam-ish, or anything else in the umbrella of identities outside of monogamy, you are seen here. Monogamous listeners, I hope this episode will help you wrap your mind around non-monogamy if it's something that you don't totally get. And I'm not here to say that non-monogamy is better than monogamy. Both are great and both depend on the person and the relationship. Instead, I'm here to bust some myths and talk about what can make non-monogamy such a great fit for way more people than you might think. This week's guest is Claire Perelman. She's a queer Jewish certified sex therapist and educator living and working in the Bay Area. And she's a new friend of mine, which is super fun. She focuses on relationships, sex, and intimacy for couples, individuals, and polycules, meaning there is so much in this conversation that everyone can learn from. In today's episode, Claire and I talk about tools for non-monogamy, for example, dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT. We talk about ENM stereotypes and the way that ENM has been memified online. Claire talks about how to write a non-monogamy manifesto, and why it's so important to always have a why. And no, your why should not be, quote, because my partner wants to. If you've ever pursued ENM, might want to in the future, or just don't feel like you get the appeal, keep listening. Here I am with Claire. Hello, Claire Perelman. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing so well. I'm so excited to be here.
I am just tickled to have you. You're a new friend of mine, and we went on a walk kind of recently and just immediately hit it off. And it was so nice to meet in person and gab and just kind of become new pals in the sex space. That never happens when you're a sex educator. You're kind of like, we're in our own little zones here, you know?
Yep. Yeah. It was so special and so fun. I loved it so much.
Yes. And you are so amazing on Instagram and on social media. You're sex clarified. And I just have loved your content for a very long time. And we have a mutual friend, Whitney Miller, BDE Moves, who told me about you. And she was like, you got to meet this person, Claire. She is incredible. And she is a sex therapist and talks all about ENM. And I'm just so excited to have you on. We've never had a dedicated ENM episode since season 1, I think, and we're on season 12 right now.
Wow, this is exciting.
It's past due, to say the least.
Yeah,
I think we've talked about open relationships and we've talked about different kinds of things, but I feel like ENM is such a term that has become just so familiar to people, and especially to Gen Z and millennials. I mean, really people of all ages, but I feel like we're really starting to rethink how relationships have been sold to us and how we can maybe color outside the lines a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. So we're going to get started, as we always do with our guests, with the quick and dirty non-monogamy edition. This is our rapid fire segment where we get to know our expert with bold questions, honest answers, and just a teeny bit of spice. So that's where we're headed.
That sounds like my kind of deal.
Yes. What are some of the biggest myths about non-monogamy right now?
I'd say some of the biggest myths are that non-monogamy is just cheating in disguise, or that people who are doing non-monogamy can't commit to anything.
Oh, that's really good. I want to dig into both of those in a hot sec. I love that. That's super important. Name one non-sexual tool that helps you navigate non-monogamy.
I'd say most tools like navigating non-monogamy are non-sexual. If you don't have the non-sexual tools down, it's not going to work for you. I would say utilizing all of my self-soothing skills. That is super important in non-monogamy.
Could you give me a few of them? I'm so curious.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I recently just did a full DBT course and I was obsessed with it, changed my life. Shout out to DBT, which is a specialized kind of therapy. It's dialectical behavior therapy, and I think everyone could benefit from it. So that's my little plug for DBT. I am not paid for that. But self-soothing skills are huge in DBT. And so some of my favorites, which I also talk about with clients all the time, are deep breaths, but specifically in for 5 and out for 7. So your out breath is longer than your in breath. And second is dipping your face in ice water or putting an ice pack on your face when you are feeling like both of these are like when you're really, really activated. Did you ask for 3? A third one is going for a walk.
Give me it. Yeah. Going for a walk. Simple. But I really like the ice water one because I feel like we don't give enough credit to kind of like shocking our bodies in a good way, kind of back into reality. I feel like it's so easy to spin and be anxious and just constantly think what can go wrong, what can go wrong. And it's such a quick but powerful and free way to get your body regulated.
Yeah, 100%. I'm all about body regulation. My clients can tell you that. I think I talk about it in literally every session I have, and I also use it myself all the time.
So amazing. What is one big sign that someone should try non-monogamy?
This is an unfortunate one, but this is the first thing that came to my mind is if you cheat in every single relationship, you might not be satisfied with monogamy.
Right. Can you expand a tiny bit on that? Like when you see clients, are you kind of seeing that they feel super guilty about this and you kind of help them reframe that like this relationship structure just might be a better fit for you? Or how does that process come out? Because obviously like harm has been done, right? So
Right.
what's the nuance there?
Right. And I wouldn't suggest that like just because someone cheated or they cheated a couple times means that they should open up their relationship, especially if their current partner does not want to open up their relationship. But I think if someone has looked at their past relationships and seen like, oh, I am consistently feeling unsatisfied with only one person, or I feel trapped, or I feel like I am missing out on like living my life to the fullest when I am in a monogamous committed relationship, then we might want to explore what might non-monogamy look like for them.
Right. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
All right. We got one more for the quick and dirty, which is
Great.
What's one big sign that someone should not try non-monogamy?
I think that it's if they can imagine their partner, or if they don't have a current partner, their future partner being with someone else and it only induces panic. But like consistently, like I think the first few times that you imagine your partner with someone else, especially when you're used to monogamy, you probably will feel panic.
Right.
But if there is not any other feeling that comes up after a while of envisioning this, then it might not be for you.
And that comes because like that, you're saying that because this is inherent to the relationship structure. Like your partner, you're going to have to eventually be okay with your partner being with other people.
Yeah. And I would say like some people will definitely listen to this and be like, oh my God, I felt panic at first and now I'm happy in a polyamorous relationship with 17 partners. Great. Just because you feel panic, I'm saying panic is normal. But if there is only panic and you consistently only feel panic, then that might be a sign that your nervous system just like doesn't want to handle non-monogamy, and that's okay.
And that's okay. Yes.
That's okay.
We did talk about that. I feel like in a previous episode, I can't remember. I think it was maybe in our ACE episode, talking about, the fact that if you are identifying on the ACE spectrum and you don't want to have sex, that's okay. Like there's just, there's a lot of pressure, I feel like, in our current time to experience everything. It's kind of like what's, quote unquote popular, which we'll get into a little bit later in a later segment about who thinks what is popular, why, but in terms of ENM. But I do think that, if you have evaluated this for yourself and you're like, that's not for me, then that's okay. But the rest of this episode, we are going to be talking about if it might be for you and how exciting that might be.
Exactly.
And I'm excited to get your expertise. I'm curious, like when you started navigating non-monogamy, Claire, like how did you do this? When did you realize this was something that you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, I recently dove into this on a different podcast, and I was saying that I didn't have the language for it, but everyone I was dating in my 20s, I told them at the beginning of the relationship that they would not be the only person, because I was always dating like for long term. I was always like, I'm going to marry the person that I'm dating every single time. And so I would always tell them that they were not going to be the only person that I slept with for the rest of my life. Like that was just like what they were signing up for.
Front.
Yeah, with me. And they'd be like, okay. And I didn't know how I was going to manage that, but I just knew in my bones that that was what was going to happen. And I also was always asking if we could be in like some kind of open relationship like that. I was always like, but can I also sleep with other people? And often because I was dating monogamous people, they were like, what are you talking about? And I didn't quite have the language and I didn't have the resources to figure it out. But because I continued to like move through life that way, and obviously if it didn't work for people, they would not date me, which was fine. I moved to the Bay, and then I really like started to meet non-monogamous people, and I was like, great, yeah, exactly. I was like, this is it.
Wow. So basically you had this instinct from when you started to date. Like, was it like this for you in college, like in high school, or were you kind of just like, I'm like dating people and it just doesn't feel right that I'm only with them? Or like when did that switch flip for you?
I think I just really wanted to experience so much. And I didn't really date in high school. And so in college, I kind of like made up for lost time. and and so I had, lots of different partners.
Yeah, that's
but
code for like fucking a ton.
yeah, I was a huge slut and I loved it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I am actually wearing a tank top right now that says very slut. I really think we should all embrace this. Yeah, much slut. I've always loved being a slut, and that's always been a thing that I feel like I've reclaimed. And so I think that although you don't have to be a slut to be non-monogamous, I think that many people who are non-monogamous are slutty. And so it gave me an opportunity, a way to be the way I want to be.
Fuck yeah. Really, truly happy for you.
Thank you so much.
I feel the need to say like that meme where it's like, you're doing great, sweetie.
Yeah.
just like you're living exactly how you want to be living. And I think that's so wonderful that you help clients do this as well and figure out what their boundaries are and how to connect to this new relationship structure and lifestyle. And I don't think there's any one right answer on this, but I'm curious for yourself, how do you delineate the differences between ENM and polyamory, if you do at all? Or do you see them kind of as one and the same?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ethical non-monogamy, ENM, is an umbrella term, and it can encompass all forms of non-monogamy. So it can be open relationships, swingers, whatever. And polyamory falls under that umbrella. So polyamory is being in a committed, loving relationship with multiple people. Yeah. And ENM is not necessarily that.
Okay. And what are some of the other terms that I guess are under the umbrella of ENM other than polyamory?
So polyamory, open relationships, monogam-ish, swingers. And then there's like all kinds of things in between there.
Got it. And do you personally feel non-monogamy in your life as an orientation or a lifestyle or both or something in between? Or how would you describe it?
Yeah, I think that is a great question, because being in the non-monogamous space, you meet a lot of people who have very differing views on this. And like one of my partners is really committed to it being an orientation. Like they are just like, this is the only way that I am, and there's no other form of relational style for me. I feel a little more fluid in it. Although as I was reflecting on this, when I received this question, I was like, do I feel more fluid in it? I've been, committing to people telling them, right? telling them that like they're not going to be the only person that I have sex with for the rest of my life. So I would say that maybe a portion of it for me is orientation, not necessarily polyamory, but non-monogamy is probably an orientation for me.
Yeah, I mean, for lack of a better term, it's kind of like the Bible, like a religious Bible of kind of like a set of kind of like guidelines and principles, right? That folks who abide by ENM just know to be true in their life. Like obviously it's not right for everybody, but if you are going to all of your partners saying like, this is just how it is for me, right? Like there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of butts, so ENM has become a bad butt, sort of the butt of the joke in like queer spaces online. And a lot of queer people kind of poke fun at ENM folks. That's not dissimilar to how we've seen jokes around bi folks, ace people, aromantic people, etc. Why do you think this is happening for ENM right now? What's going on with like the memification of ENM right now?
The memification. Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to poke fun at. I think it's confusing for people. Right. And so I think that anything new and confusing and alternative is what people are going to kind of attack a bit, things that they don't understand. Right. And I think there's two sides of it. I think one part of it is like people are jealous. Like when I think about like bisexual memification almost. They're like, fuck you guys. You get to have everything.
To have it all.
And then, and then if you're also non-monogamous, like what the fuck? How much pleasure can you have? And
you want to have your cake and eat it too, you slut?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. 100%. And we can. And like that, I think is like life is already going to give us suffering. And so why don't we find as much pleasure in it as possible? And that does not mean that you have to be non-monogamous to find that, but that is the way that many people do. And I think that is difficult for people to understand. And I also think that other people are just like very annoyed that everyone they are meeting is non-monogamous now, especially in the queer space. And so they're like, what the fuck? Where are all my monogamous babes at? Like, why is everyone I'm meeting non-monogamous?
It is kind of interesting, though, to think about like the umbrella of ENM, right? Because there are so many different ways that people can engage in ENM. Like you mentioned monogam-ish, right? Like so many people can be monogamous for 20 years and then decide for a week they go to a sex cruise and they decide to open up their relationship for a week and then they go back home and they close it again. Or they have an experience and they're like, oh, that was fun. Maybe we want to continue doing that. Like there are so many kind of preconceived rules around what monogamy has to be. And the reality is everyone gets to make up their own fucking game. They could do whatever they want.
That's the beauty of it. And that is what I want monogamous people to take from non-monogamous culture, is that you get to co-create your relationship however it works for you.
Yeah. And nobody else has to get it. Like as long as you two consenting people are able to continue to check in and have clear communication about it, then fuck everyone else. Like don't bother with other ideas. Like I guess like a follow-up for you, how many partners like do you currently have? Like what does that look like for you? Like give me the deets on your relationships.
Yeah. So currently I have 3 partners that I see regularly that I like call my, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And I like see some other people kind of casually outside of that, but like very infrequently because having 3 partners and a full-time job and social media and, trying to work out and and my cat.
Yes. Our cute gray cats.
A lot.
Excitement, intimacy, confidence. Uberlube helps you feel all the things you want to feel by reducing friction and boosting pleasure. It's clean, body safe, latex compatible, and free of parabens or preservatives. Basically, it's sex lube done right. Want to try it out for yourself? Use code SEXEDWITHDB at uberlube.com for 10% off your purchase. Flicking the bean, jilling off, menage a moi. All of these are creative and hilarious ways to say masturbation. For 21 days, I embarked on what started as a personal masturbation experiment with one of my all-time favorite vibes, the magic wand. The goal? To answer one burning question. What is the impact of daily magic wand use on my health, wellness, and sexual experiences compared to regular sexual activity and no sexual activity? Spoiler alert, the results were so surprising they inspired me and the Magic Wand team to turn this experiment into a full-fledged scientific study. Now 1,000 other people have experienced how consistent self-pleasure affects everything from mental health to sexual satisfaction. Want to see the results from the study? Head to magicwandstudy.com to check it out. Feeling like you and your partner are in a bit of a bedroom rut? Been there. What helped? A little Lion's Den adventure. Whether you're into toys, massage oils, or sexy games, Lion's Den has everything to help couples connect in fun, low-pressure ways. Shopping together can be half the fun. Visit lionsden.com and use code SEXEDWITHDB and get 15% off your purchase. Trust me, date night just got way more interesting. Valentine's Day doesn't have to suck if you're single. In fact, you can be the main event. I'm DB from Sex Ed with DB, teaming up with Talia from Dating Intentionally for a 4-day all-inclusive retreat in Palm Springs, California, from February 12th to 15th, 2026. This is just for single women and femmes, and there are only 12 spots. Think heated pool, hot tub, pickleball, all your meals included with a private chef, yoga, cocktails and mocktails, and juicy workshops to help you get crystal clear on your dating life, values, and pleasure. The waitlist is open right now. Go to our link in our link in bio or linktr.ee/sexedwithdb to sign up right now. In terms of how you kind of navigate like schedules and communication, like what does that look like on the back end?
Well, there's a great joke that polyamorous people are just people with a scheduling kink. Because we all just thrive off of Google Calendar. One of my partners, when we were first started dating, they sent me a picture of their Google Calendar. And then they were like, is this more intimate than a nude? And I was like, I actually think it is. Like, I can't believe you just sent me that.
That's so good.
Yeah. So we do a lot of calendaring, and you just have to prioritize. It's just like calendaring for when you decide to go to the gym or when you go on vacation or whatever. Obviously, vacation happens less often than my dates with partners. But I have a standing date with one of my partners each week. So, we all navigate it a little bit differently between the three relationships. But as long as everyone has like the benefit of the doubt for each other, right? Just as in any other relationship, it works out.
Love it.
Yeah.
So kind of transitioning, I guess, into your sex therapist hat mode. If someone or a couple, I guess, wants to open a relationship, or if one person in the couple wants to open the relationship, what should they learn or question or figure out within themselves? And then a second part is, how do they broach the topic with their partner once they get there?
Yeah. Those are great fucking questions. And I work with clients all the time on this. One of my main things that I encourage clients to do when they are first opening up their relationship, or when they are first navigating ENM, even as a single person, is to create essentially a non-monogamy manifesto for yourself. So literally write something out, put it in a Google Doc, put it in your notes app on your iPhone, write it down in your journal, but write it in a place that you can come back to, and write down your why. Because if you don't have a why that you can come back to, that you feel secure about and excited about, and that you can ground into, then it's not going to fucking work. Because another thing also, and I have said this straight up to clients, if your why is because your partner wants to open up the relationship, that's not going to work for you, babe. That is not a grounded enough why, because when you are having a hard time, which so far, we've been all giggles about non-monogamy, but really it's fucking tough. And it takes a lot of emotional labor as well. And once you hit the challenging parts, which you 100% will, if your why is just, I want to make my partner happy, you're going to end up resenting your partner. So come back to your why, make sure it's not just because my partner wants to, and that will be able to carry you through. Another thing is, I encourage couples, if they are, both really on board, to create a couple manifesto as well. So you have your individual ones, and then you have your couples one, because inevitably when you hit some roadblocks, you can come back to those and then feel like, okay, yeah, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah. Wow. That's so, it's such a, like a basic, it seems, practice, like to do that before moving on to other things. And say that both people have their why, but I feel like typically it kind of reaches a point where maybe one person may be more interested in doing that than the other person for whatever reason. What kind of conversation prompts do you recommend for the person who's trying to open the relationship and trying to share their why with their partner?
Yeah. And so that kind of like ties into your second question of like, how do you broach this with your partner? I think that you have to be prepared for your partner to have any kind of reaction, and that reaction does not mean that is going to be their reaction forever, right? I have seen all forms of this. Some people react really strongly. Some people are like, let me think about it. All of those have to be okay with you. If you are trying to open up your relationship, you have to remember, even if you've been thinking about it for the last year, your partner probably has not. And so if you haven't been talking about it, they haven't been, marinating on it in the same way. And so there can't be a sense of urgency. It can't be like, I have been unhappy for 2 years. I've been thinking about this for 1 year and tomorrow we have to open up our relationship. No, that's not going to work. And that's going to make your partner freak the fuck out. So you want to open it up in as compassionate and gentle a way as possible and really stick to I statements. Like, I feel, curious. I feel sad about our lack of, connection in X, Y, and Z way. I feel dissatisfied. I feel, not adored. I don't know. Stick to I feel blank statements with an emotion word, not like I feel like you. That is not an I feel statement. And try your best not to make it about your partner. If I come to my partner and say, in this scenario, and say, you aren't paying any attention to me, so I want to open up our relationship so at least someone can fuck me, that's not going to go well. Right. So even if that's how you feel, there is a way to engage with that conversation that is more compassionate and gentle and really reminds your partner that you also value your relationship. Because often if you are two monogamous people who have not already discussed non-monogamy or opening up the relationship in the future, your partner's probably going to get pretty freaked out because there are a lot of tropes that come up when a monogamous partner asks their other monogamous partner to open up the relationship.
Could you just expand on that a tiny bit more before our next question? What are those tropes?
So some of the tropes are that this is the beginning of the end, that anyone who opens up is on the way to divorce, or that it means that you're never going to have good sex again, or that something is wrong about in your relationship. Even if you're not going to break up, something is inherently wrong. Or, people's usually biggest fear is that their partner's going to find someone else and then leave them. And the thing that I like to remind everyone is that monogamy is a false sense of security. Your partner can always leave you, even if you are married. And I hate to tell you that, but just because they are open to dating someone else does not mean that they are then going to leave you. Sure, it's possible, but it was always possible in monogamy as well.
I have so many thoughts swirling around in my head. I mean, the first of all, brilliant. Yes, I'm completely tuned in here. I think a thing that's coming up for me, right, is the fucking website Ashley Madison, right? The site where you sign up to cheat on your spouse intentionally. Millions of people sign up for that site. Why? Because they are not capable of having a conversation with their partner to say, I'm interested in potentially sleeping with other people. And they would rather be sworn to secrecy and hide on a website in order to get their needs met non-consensually against their contract with their partner, rather than us as a society say, hey, why don't we fucking rethink this for a second?
Yeah.
And, there's this idea of oh, well, maybe part of why they do it is because it's hot to be secret. Talk about a secrecy with your fucking partner consensually.
You can make that a sexual event between the two of you.
Exactly. You don't have to, you can agree on telling your partner certain things, but not other things, as long as your partner agrees. There's so many ways to crack this thing wide open. And I just think that the more that we are honest with ourselves and say, maybe being with one person for our whole lives is not feasible for 80 years is not feasible for many, many people, similar to how that one person can't fill your whole pie. You need friends, you need family, you need your tennis partner, you need a therapist, you need people to meet all of your needs. And I think that it's so crazy and outdated that we're just not willing to admit the same about our romantic partners potentially.
Yeah. We are very, very iron grip on what romance is supposed to look like and
Thanks
feel
a lot,
like.
media. Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Disney.
seriously, Disney, good old Disney.
Yeah. I mean, kind of transitioning though into say, that two partners are open to it. Maybe one partner
Mhm.
is a little bit more interested in opening up the relationship or, experimenting within the ENM umbrella than the other partner, but say that they both eventually do get there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pleasure because that's what
Yeah.
this whole season is about. Pleasure for this
Love
episode
that.
in ENM.
Yeah.
What kinds of pleasure can really only exist in ENM? Like thinking both of having multiple partners to fulfill different sexual desires, but also things like compersion, which is the joy of seeing your partner happy with another partner.
Yeah. Yeah. Compersion is such a special and sometimes elusive feeling. So I have a lot of complex feelings about compersion, but I think that for many people, accessing compersion can be one of the most like liberating things, like feeling really excited about your partner being with other people in a way that feels really like authentic to you can feel so like new in a way because it is so against, it's like the ultimate thing in opposition to what we are taught about how relationships are supposed to be. So not only are we like practicing this thing that is with multiple partners, but we are then happy about our partner having like other relationships. That just is like so wild to our brains. And so I
Yeah.
think that compersion can be such a deep sense of pleasure and fulfillment almost, and really affirming as well. But I also think that compersion is not a necessity
Right.
for everyone in non-monogamy. So I think that's an important thing to note. But I think that one of the pleasures of being in non-monogamy is that you are no longer so focused on the idea that only one person is going to meet your needs. Like you
Yeah.
have liberated yourself
You're
from
free.
that. Yeah. And it is such a pleasure to remind yourself, like, when you're having those thoughts of, oh, like, well, they're not doing this. And then thinking, like, oh, yeah, but I have other partners that can 100% do that or like do this thing with me. Like maybe this one partner doesn't like, going dancing with me, but this other one loves it. And so how exciting that I get to fulfill that and still be in these like two beautiful relationships.
Yeah, totally. And I'm even thinking of taking this like pleasure that happens outside of the bedroom into
Mm-hmm.
pleasure that happens inside of the bedroom, like thinking
Mm-hmm.
about different ways that, it's really beautiful to be with one partner for such a long time and they know your
Mm-hmm.
body and you know theirs
Mm-hmm.
and you know their spots and vice versa. And potentially with a new partner to be like, oh, we have crushes on each other. And like, oh,
Yeah.
they're so good at using this toy on me. Or, oh, I love the way that they're kissing my neck. That feels really
Mm-hmm.
different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's such an opportunity for newness and
Mm-hmm.
for spark and kind of like sexy crushes in ENM that I feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of what ends up missing sometimes in monogamy because if you are with a long-term partner for such a long time, if you're not both invested in keeping things fresh and fun and keeping the spark alive, that's where relationships end up after 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, like going downhill is because you're not consistently showing up for each other in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the sweetest pleasures is that NRE feeling. And also learning from each partner, like you're describing, if you're having really hot sex with one of them that feels different than the hot sex you're having with another one, you can bring those things into the other partnership. You don't have to be like, my other partner fucks me this way. Like that is
Right.
probably not going to go very well. But you could be like, oh, let's try this thing or let's do that thing. Another pleasure that I'm thinking about, there are two. One is sexual, one's non-sexual. One huge pleasure in non-monogamy, if it all works out, is like group sex. Like you can have
Sing
all of
it.
these partners, have sex with you, with each other, all those things. And sometimes that can be difficult with like really committed partners, but a lot of poly people have access to like play party scenes and things like that. And so group play is a huge pleasure that like is not as difficult to access in these communities. And then the second one that I'm thinking about that like literally happened to me the other day is I have obviously been dating all my partners for a different amount of time. And the partner that I've been dating the longest, has had the most practice in supporting me when I am feeling really upset or dysregulated. And so I actually had him help one of my newer partners, like with tips on like how to help Claire when she's feeling sad.
Wow.
And it was so helpful. I was like, wow, this is so fucking great. Like, what an insight into the way that you can support me, and support my other partner in then supporting me again. And like, what a deep sense of pleasure I got from that.
Wow, that's really incredible. And that's awesome that you're with partners who are open to chatting and potentially being friendly or friends with each other. I'm sure it doesn't always happen in that way and it's complex, but I'm sure that adds another dimension to how you see the both of them kind of independent of you.
Yeah. It's so sweet. And one of my partners, two of my partners, we all hang out, like the four of us, like my girlfriend and their primary partner and me and my primary partner, like we all hang out together. And that is just like so sweet. Like the four of us just chilling. I'm like, this is so special.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think one of my last questions I have for you before we move on to our next segment is, can we talk a little bit about when kids are in the picture with polyamory and ENM? Because I think that a lot of folks might be curious about, okay, say you are completely embedded in the lifestyle and or the relationship structure, however you're interested in talking about it. You have multiple partners, but you say, for example, are interested in having children. Like, how do you envision those conversations coming up for you in your life, and kind of how do you direct clients to talk about those things?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have kids right now, and I have always planned on having kids. I've known since I was like 5 years old that I wanted to have kids.
Me too.
It's so special. And I have just been very upfront, just like dating like any other people dating, saying like, this is how I would like to, this is how I envision my future with children and also with other partners. I also envision that it will likely change. I will probably not have time for all of the things listed and 3 partners as often as I see them and kids, right? But I know a lot of people in the polyamorous community who have kids, who have multiple partners, who are thriving. And some of my other partners have kids. And so I am able to watch that happen in real time. And, you have to make different choices about timing, and childcare comes into play and stuff like that. But I think that it's totally doable, as long as you are really intentional. I think that all of ENM really takes a lot of intentionality and an intense amount of communication. And so I think that as long as you are being upfront with people and understanding what the priorities are, like how do you continue this deep emotional connection? Do you have to see each other quite as often? How will things change when kids are introduced? And so I support my clients in having all those kinds of conversations and thinking about those things. Obviously, I'm very into like reflection activities. And so I have clients, once again, like envision what their life will look like with kids and ENM and how they want to navigate that as well.
Love it. So awesome. Thank you for your expertise and for sharing your personal journey. It's so special. And I know this is going to be such a fucking kick-ass episode. So thank you. We have one more segment, which is called The Buzz, where we talk about kind of what is trending about the topic that we're talking about in our episode for today, ENM. If there are any news stories or videos blowing up on TikTok, like what are people saying about this basically in culture? What does the culture have to say?
People talk about this a lot.
People are talking about this a lot. And I think I'd love to kind of ground us with this Atlantic article that my wonderful producer found that was actually published last year. But essentially, the idea is that ENM is for the wealthy and the elite. And there's a few quotes that maybe I want to share before we get into this. And I want to get your opinion, but here's like a key passage. This author is Tyler Austin Harper. He writes, More is a near perfect time capsule of the banal pleasure seeking of wealthy elite culture in the 2020s and a neat encapsulation of its flaws. This culture would have us believe that interminable self-improvement projects, navel gazing, and sexual peccadillos, I'm sorry, sir, are the new face of progress. The climate warns, wars rage, and our country lurches towards a perilous election, all problems that require real action, real progress, and somehow, quote, you do you has become the American ruling class's 3-word Bible. Yeah. So, he basically talks about like the fact that wokeness is kind of like part of this, how essentially like working on yourself and an idea of, introducing ENM is like part of this like wokeness culture and only something that very rich people can participate in. Extremely wild because polyamory is how many people that our producer knows can afford rent. By living with multiple people. But I'm curious on your take on this. What have you heard about this? Like, give me your expert kind of opinion.
Yeah. So I definitely think that this is a thing that people bring up often. And he's referencing a book called More about this woman who opened up her marriage in like New York or something. And people, I never read it, but people really enjoyed it. It sounded like a very basic idea of non-monogamy that was really wild to people reading it who had maybe not heard a lot about non-monogamy and stuff. And it was about how it like changed her marriage. And great. I am happy for her and everyone who, expanded their minds for that. But I think that with that framework that she posited, it was very much like she had a baby. They needed a lot of money to do like childcare and to make it so that she and her husband could go on separate dates so she could have a boyfriend, et cetera, et cetera. And I agree that if you're living in an extremely like nuclear family, 2 parents, heterosexual, 2 kids, type of thing, then yeah, introducing other partners and things, you're going to need more money to be able to have childcare and do that kind of stuff if you don't have any other community care. But I think that non-monogamy can absolutely be community care, and you don't have to have a lot of money to have multiple relationships. I do think it's important to remember that like if our Maslow's hierarchy of needs are not being met, like if I'm working 3 fucking jobs just to make ends meet, I'm probably not gonna have fucking time for polyamory. Right. And that's okay. But I do think that like that is the rub there, right? And like if I am not able to meet my basic needs, I probably will not be able to meet even one relational like set of needs, let alone be able to think about other relational sets of needs. So I do think that at a certain point, some version of polyamory, you need to be able to have like your basic needs met, right? And so that you can then also have the emotional energy to give to other relationships. But I don't think that necessarily means that you have to it's only for the elite. I think that part of this is that it has become like something that is popularized now as like, oh, I'm so woke and evolved, and so I'm non-monogamous. But many of the people that I know are non-monogamous are not part of any kind of wealthy ruling class, right? They are like artists and like people who are simply like trying to live their lives in a way that makes sense to them. And that means multiple relationships. And that, I celebrate that.
Hondo P. Perfect response. No notes. Yeah, I don't know. On one end too, I just feel like it's another opportunity for like bullying people who don't have the same kind of relationship structure that you want. Like all of us are growing up who are, in this American society, in like a hegemonic, cis, straight, like puritanical culture. And how could we not be biased from that? Like any other kind of relationship structure is seen kind of against the grain. And so I'm sure that also is like a piece of this kind of like, well, if they want to do this, then they must be rich. It's kind of like, okay, well, you probably don't have any poly friends, do you? Or, like it's the same.
They definitely don't.
They definitely don't. So yeah, I just, super important to talk about this. And thank you for your thoughts. I feel so lucky to be your new pal, and I can't wait for another hang and another walk. And we'll put all your links in our show notes, but definitely check out Sex Clarified on Instagram. We'll link that right up, your website. We'll make sure people get you and know where to find you. But thank you so much for being on today. This is so illuminating and so wonderful.
Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for another walk through Oakland in the sun. It was my favorite.
Yay. And welcome to the Afterglow, where we will wind some things down, reflect on big takeaways, and leave you with one juicy thing to try, think about, or explore before next week. I really loved this episode. I really loved how Claire focused on the feeling of liberation that you feel when you realize that your one partner does not need to meet every single one of your needs. That could mean going dancing with one partner, or staying in with another, or engaging in something new and sexy with one partner that another would not be into. All of those experiences can make every single relationship within ENM even stronger. And having multiple partners can make you learn so much about how you communicate and how you love. One of my personal biggest takeaways from this conversation was how important it is to remind your partner or partners why you cherish your particular relationship so much. Talk to each other about what makes your relationship feel good to you, outside of just loving each other, what makes it special. Another big takeaway was that monogamy does not automatically make a relationship more stable. Like Claire said, whether you're monogamous or not, there's always a chance that your partner will find someone else and leave. Monogamy shares many of the same worries as people in ENM relationships. We just are often not trained to see it that way. So I thought this was a great reminder. All relationships need constant, honest, loving communication. So here is your pleasure practice of the week. Try making an ethical non-monogamy manifesto for yourself, or try journaling about why you think ENM might not be for you. Both are fine. This practice is all about imagining a what if in which you try a different style of relationship and just seeing how you feel. No feeling is wrong. It's all just a way to start an important conversation with yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, love y'all. See you next week.